Welcome everyone. I'm here to introduce our woman in leadership speaker, who is Luann Thoma Holec. Luann's experience and passion for senior living, interior design inspired her to launch a company exclusively dedicated to it. Founded in 2006, Thoma Holec Design's award-winning communities are known for their unique, welcoming, and meaningful spaces designed to enhance resident and staff experiences throughout the US and Canada. An expert in new construction and repositioning design, Luann has earned numerous national, regional, and local awards. She's been featured in numerous publications and has served as a judge for industry competitions, including EFA, SAGE, NAHB 55 and Plus, Gold Nugget Awards, and many more. Luann earned her Bachelor of Science in Interior Design and Museum Arts from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and her graduate certificate in gerontology. Did I say that right, Luann?
Yeah, gerontology.
From Arizona State University. She is Certified National Council for Interior Design, qualification, and Certified Active Adult Specialist in Housing. She's a licensed interior designer in numerous states, and as a member serves Leading Age, SAGE, ASID, and of course, Arizona Alpha. That is Luann.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome, Luann. I cannot tell you guys how excited I have been to do this. I have known Luann for a very long time, and she's one of the women that fascinates me. And I'm going to go back to just a little bit, and then I'll ask her to go back further. But when I first met Luann way back when, she had just started her own firm. And within 6-7 months after she started her own interior design firm, the industry crashed. Probably one of the worst crashes we have seen in senior housing. And every time I saw her, she was happy and smiling. And it was like, how can you be so happy when you've started your own business, you've gone off on your own, and we're in this massive recession? So how did you do it, Luann?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks, Karen. And your expertise and wisdom has led Arizona Alpha to be one of the best associations across the country. So I just want to thank you, first of all, for all that you do. So yeah, there's been lots of hills and valleys and lots of speed bumps, and I think it just takes perseverance. You just put one foot in front of the other and never give up. And when you hit one of those speed bumps, you trip and you either fall and get yourself up again, or you jump over it and just take off running. In 2006, honestly, I had worked with a firm that, my first career essentially was doing sales offices and marketing centers and model home interiors for home builders and developers. And I did that for about 20 years. And when I saw, I had been through multiple recessions, and every recession, it seemed, no matter how small it was, the home building industry really took the major hit for it. And when I saw that 2006, 7, the home builders were already starting to struggle at that point. And I had been doing some senior housing design since 1995. And I recognized that I just needed to concentrate 100% on senior housing, let the model home industry, the sales office industry just go away, and just really focus on senior housing. And it was the best decision that I ever made, essentially. And I learned a lot through doing model home interiors. I learned that marketing was key to the success of an environment. It was so critical to learn how to determine the demographics of an area, how to target a design to a region or a city or a location. And if you're not targeting the market or the resident or the family or the buyer, the renter, shopper, the diner, the business isn't going to survive. And So I really just focused 100% on senior housing. And I started out small. I mean, when I started my firm, it was myself doing 100% of the design. And within the first probably 10 months, I hired a previous employee that did all the accounts payable and receivables. And she came on part-time, just a few hours a week. She's still with me today. She's worked with me for over 25 years. She's the one that has kept me sane, essentially in regards to the financial aspects. So, just kind of one foot in front of the other, and just some days you just have to not read the news to know what's going elsewhere. And I want to say I literally started the company with no money. I had gone through a lot of rough spots previous to that. When I graduated from college, well, to back up, when I was a senior in college, in one of my business classes, they had us fill out a note card for a 5-year goal. And one of my only 5-year goal was to own my own business. So in 5 years, I owned a business after college. I was like 27 years old, 26 years old, something like that. I knew absolutely nothing about owning a business. So when that first recession hit, needless to say, that business was gone. I closed the doors and went to work for a different design firm. But so, I had a lot of rough patches before I even opened in 2006. I had no money to start, but I had a portfolio, which was number one. In 1995, I did Las Fuentes in Prescott. The owner was Astor Stave, just incredible teacher to me. He taught me so much about senior housing and really guided me on how to do that community, and trusted me. And that won a national award. It won several local awards. And then from that, Eric Gruber, with Craig's brother, hired me to do Sierra Point. Eric Johnson hired me to do the Stratford. I did the Citadel for Astor Stave, and the ship sailed. And I just kind of kept going from there. And, like I said, just one foot in front of the other.
Now for the most part, senior housing is a female dominated arena, but when you get to the higher positions, it's still a lot of men in there, and you've dealt with a lot of men. When you were first starting out and you had other competitors, how were you able to rise to the top? I mean, I forgot you did models. I had totally forgot that. But how were you able to rise to the top, and word of mouth? How were you able to get the word of mouth out there?
Yeah, so I learned that it was so critical for me to know who my competitors were, number one, and figure out how to differentiate from those competitors. So the one thing I did in 2008, I went to ASU and got a graduate certificate in gerontology. I actually started in 2006 and graduated in 2008. And so being able to put that I had a graduate certificate in gerontology behind my marketing materials made a huge difference. Mm-hmm. And I will say, like, being a woman in business is not easy. And I would say, I would hope that today it's easier starting out, but in 2006, 1995, it was difficult. Interior design, I would say, is primarily women, but we're working with male architects, and the majority of architects are male. The general contractors are male. The developers are typically male. So it definitely is a male-dominated industry. So it was critical for me to establish credentials. And I've never been a body beautiful woman. So I had to make certain that I had the brains and the expertise and create relationships. And I started joining all the professional associations, for senior housing. I joined SAGE, Leading Age, Alpha, Arizona Alpha, Argentum, just all of that. So I could put those credentials behind my name. And then I am NCIDQ certified, which would be comparable to an architect passing an AIA exam or a CPA becoming certified. It's a national certification, and that allowed me to become licensed in multiple states. And there's not a lot of designers that go to that level. They think they can accomplish their goals without the credentials and just having a great portfolio. And in senior housing, that wasn't enough. I had to differentiate and be considered an expert. I felt to be considered an expert in order to succeed. And to get the national, I mentioned Las Fuentes, and we won a national award with that. We are constantly and still today entering as many award programs as we can, because for us, it's a inexpensive fee to enter those awards. We, of course, have to do professional photography of our communities. But if we win that award, we get a lot of publicity. And anytime you win an award, it becomes noticed by everybody. And I honestly, that was my marketing. I'm not an outgoing person. I'm, more shy than I am, more introverted than extroverted. If I know people, then I'm more extroverted. But to make a cold call, there's no way I would ever make a cold call and ask for a job. So the marketing had to be through visuals and through the awards and things like that.
But I like what you're saying. I think a lot of women are hesitant. There's all kinds of awards out there that they could, especially executive directors, all of them that can submit, but they won't do it themselves. They feel like they need somebody to nominate them. And I keep telling them, do your own awards. Don't wait for somebody else to nominate you. Do it yourself. So I like that you said that you guys take care of business.
Yeah, you have to take risks, and having awards, no matter in what avenue, it just creates you, it differentiates you and lets people know that you're special, or that there's something about you that award was deserving.
Now, you said you took risks. What's the biggest risk you took other than starting a business and having a recession hit?
Right.
Think of that.
Like I said, I literally had no money, and fortunately, a client that I had worked with in California said that he would fund the procurement for one of his projects, and he put the furniture money into one checking account that he had to sign every check for, and then he put my fees in a different checking account. So when I say I literally had no money, I had no savings to start a business. So that was definitely the biggest risk that I took. But owning a business, there's risks every day. Interior design, people think of it in terms of, that it's luxury and it's fun, and, we're working with beautiful objects and furnishings and fabrics, and that's all true. And that's the fun part of what we do. But there's huge liabilities. And the liabilities are that we're specifying and installing product that could cause a resident to fall, or could cause a resident to become ill from toxic materials. There's just so many things. If they can't get out of the chair properly, or if there's a sharp edge on the corner of a chair, it's all these little details that are huge liable. And doing the installations, it's an extremely stressful business, which I don't think most people would think interior design would be. But the details that we have to do, as well as the time frames that we have to do it in, are extraordinary. We're answering to the architect, the owner, the developer, the general contractor, all of which are making us jump through hoops to accomplish something. So it's very stressful, which just in that there's liabilities of making an error or of causing an issue. So other risks, I don't know, just working through a pandemic. I mean, that was a risk I did not anticipate, did not see that one coming. And that changed how we do business. Today, we're still, changing how we do business.
Well, and you're an international company. So you grew from a team of you to an international company. Your staff is growing. You've brought on a partner. How do you keep that tight-knit feeling? Because when I go to your office, it is truly like a family. I mean, everybody's sauntering about, there's always good food there, but I mean, everybody's just, every time I go, it doesn't matter what time of day, everybody's just so happy.
Yeah, you're here on good days. Definitely some days where people aren't as happy, but I think it's partially my personality. Excuse me. I take things very personal. So if I have a challenge with an employee, or if an employee leaves the company, even if it's for a better position or a position that totally makes sense for their growth, I still take it personal. And I think my employees see that I'm very engaged with them on a one-on-one, and try to keep that. And when I hire, I make certain that every employee that I hire is very passionate about not only design, but also seniors, and about the communities that we're going to design. And I'll literally ask them questions if they have a story about a grandparent or a relative, or something that tells me if they're empathetic or if they have the passion that's needed for the industry. And we're constantly trying to create that culture in the company, that it's not just about design, it's not just about us, it's about who we're designing for. And we constantly stress that a resident has purpose until their last breath. And I want to make certain that every employee understands their purpose as well. We do a lot of strategic planning. We do strengths assessments of every employee when they join our firm, so that we understand where they're coming from and what strengths they have and how they fit into the company. And it helps us to understand if a person procrastinates, we know that because their strength might be in another area of expertise. So it's just acknowledging all that, and just making sure that we're all on the same page. I think wearing my heart on my sleeve sometimes is a risk, but it definitely, I think, has helped to create the culture of the company.
And I think one of the things that helps create your culture is, for years, probably 25 years, you have had a booth at our conference. The best booth. It's so comfortable. Love the chairs. And we all know you don't get a lot of business out of our conference, because yours are the actual people that are writing checks. But yet you show up every year, and to me that speaks to who you are. You support the industry, and by supporting the industry, do you feel it benefits you? Because other people that may not be at our conference are looking at our information and going, oh, look, she was at Arizona Alpha, when she's usually at the national conferences. What's the philosophy behind that kind, generous side that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, I will say having a booth and all of the connections that I've had with Arizona Alpha have definitely grown my business. I mean, I may not have gotten a direct sale while at the conference, but just being there, and people recognizing who I am and just, you know, being supportive, I think does grow the business. I was on your board,
Mhm.
and, you know, the board was an absolute positive for me because I learned so much during that stint. I think the key is to any successful business is to listen more than talk. And I'm definitely a listener. And, you know, I'm sure I attended board meetings where I didn't say a word, where I just listened. And I do that a lot with clients where I'll just listen and try and get a grasp of what they're headed towards or what their goals are. And I listen even at the conferences to find out what the industry's doing, what the changes are. You know, what's the occupancy? I ask every client, you know, how's your occupancy? Because that to me tells the struggles that the communities are having. And it tells, especially for me, if I designed a community and they've never reached high occupancy, I want to know if it's us, the design, the environment, or is it just the economy, or is it something with operations? I want to know all those answers so that we can help them get to a higher level of occupancy. You know, staff recruitment, retention, I know is huge. And during the pandemic and recently still, if we're talking to new clients, we'll tell them, you know, hey, there's activity spaces, there's things that we can do with your environment that you can use to retain and recruit employees. And, you know, we're constantly trying to come up with new ideas, and it's basically listening and understanding what the industry's going through. And I couldn't have done that without Arizona Alpha, you know, so just because I didn't sign a contract at every time I, you know, exhibited, that wasn't the intent by any means.
But I like what you hit upon, because I have sat in many rooms over 25 years in the very back corner of the room, because I just want to hear the conversations. I want to hear what the CEOs are talking about. I'm not there to contribute. I'm there to learn what their issues are. And I think, you know, more women need to do that. They need to, you know, throw elbows to get into the rooms. I mean, I've invited myself into rooms, and I'm not going to lie. Back in the day, Argentum, which back then was Alpha, I got kicked out of 2 different rooms. They weren't meant for us ADDs, and I went in anyway, figuring what the heck, you know. So I got kicked out. I had to do the walk of shame. But I like the fact that you do what it takes. You're seen and you listen to what everybody's saying to get a feel for the industry.
Mhm.
How has the workforce issues impacted you?
The workforce issues, it's been extremely challenging. We thought when the pandemic hit, you know, of course, everyone went remote, and we honestly were remote for a year. And we had several people leave. They had difficulty working from home. One had a baby, you know, just multiple reasons for leaving. So we needed to hire, and we thought, okay, everybody's working remote, so that means that the nation is open office for us. You know, we could hire anywhere across the country and hire designers with higher level of expertise than what we might find in Arizona. Because to be frank, you know, there aren't a lot of interior design firms in Arizona that do senior housing. So it's pretty sparse for us to find a designer with that expertise. We did that for about a year, maybe a year and a half, where we had a designer in Florida, New Hampshire, Texas, Colorado, California. And it takes a very select person to be able to do that. So we have scaled back with out of state, and we've had to hire recruiters to locate people and to basically set up incentives to move people to Arizona to work with us. Salaries have increased tremendously. So our bottom line has changed a lot. In regards to difficult years, I would say 2011 was very difficult for us, which was obviously after the recession was kind of cleaning up or being over with. It was the residual effect of the economy. And I'm not sure if 2022 will go down as a challenging year for us, or if 2023 will, because it's definitely, different with salaries, trying to get good expert designers. And I would say right now I have an incredible staff. I've learned the hard way to hire people smarter than me. And that was something that when I first started the business, I didn't do. I felt competition with that, or I don't know. My insecurity felt that I needed to be the better designer or the smarter person. And I learned the hard way that no, in order for the company to grow, I need to hire smarter people than me.
So because that's kind of a self-image question, which I love, because everybody wrestles with, as you work your way up, does your self-image come up with how are you able to keep your self-image moving up? How you view yourself and say, okay, I don't need to be the smartest in the room anymore. I can hire somebody else. Does that just evolve, or?
Yeah, I think you've learned. I've learned over the years. I think my self-image definitely improved just because of my accomplishments. I'm definitely confident and very confident with our work and, how our company is perceived. And, and somewhat my image, my personal image is in the company. It's my name. It's my name on, name of the company, Thoma Holec, my maiden name and my married name. So my identity is really the company more so than it is personal. And, again, I think it's just, I'm proud of what I've accomplished. And I would say everything that I have done, my father died very young, or young for him, and I think I was 26 years old. And whenever I make a decision that might be, I don't know, challenging, or my gut tells me, yeah, I don't know if that's a good decision. I definitely think that's something that my parents would be proud of me for. So, it's just, there's a lot of psychological crap that goes into, self-identity and owning a business and all those things.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you have a North Star. I always tell people, have a North Star, have something that, because especially a lot of your executive directors, sometimes you have to make decisions and it's in a vacuum. You have no idea if it's going to be the right decision, especially over the past 3 years. Nobody knew. We just had to make decisions. So it's good that you have a North Star to say, well, if it doesn't work out, then, I did my best.
Yep.
So I do like that.
It's those speed bumps in the road that you just kind of jump over or fall down and get back up.
Yeah. Well, in your business and in senior housing as a whole, falling down and getting back up is part of the job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, you have to have a strong self-image, because I can remember, years ago when, unbeknownst to me, I go out and get the Sunday paper and I open it up, and that one of the headlines is a smart ass comment I made to a reporter that at the time I thought was witty. was not so witty. But, you've got to be able to get back up off of being in the paper or, having people talk about the bad decision, because otherwise, especially as women, if you don't have that, either that support group around you or that North Star, I've seen too many people walk away when it was like you didn't need to walk away. You just needed to, find a support group.
Yep, definitely, definitely. And I would say, I definitely have made a lot of mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes speaking to clients and speaking to people sometimes. My vocabulary is not super extensive. I grew up in a small town and I'm not super articulate.
Wisconsin, right?
Wisconsin. So sometimes just really stupid things come out of my mouth and I have to backtrack and kind of fix those. And I hired a year ago, I hired a principal, essentially a partner for the company, which I never had before. She is so articulate. She is so smart. And when she speaks and I speak, I sometimes feel like, oh, wow, I sound so stupid. But yet I have to, think back on, yes, but I have the expertise. I've done this a million times. It's just my language is simpler than, than others. I don't use the big words.
But I like that because you've got to override. I have a speech impediment, and people are like, I can't believe that you do public speaking because you trip over your R's and your S's, and it's like, well, okay,
Yeah.
So yeah, as women, because this is for women in leadership, you're not going to be strong at everything. There's some things I do horribly, accounting, bad, but sometimes I don't present the best, but I present authentically. And you always present authentically. And I think as long as you present as you are, you'll be successful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So,
Yeah.
now I do want to know, what you attribute to your success, but I don't want to say, well, I have a great team or I have this. What do you attribute to your great successes that you've had over the years?
Well, I think I've definitely been given opportunities, by clients. It's definitely the relationship building and the opportunities that some of those relationships have given me. You do a good job for one person and that word of mouth goes beyond, and next thing you know, you're doing more and more. I will say that, there's several things that have kind of always been my motto. I mentioned my dad. He was a very entrepreneurial person, but he was a big fish in a little pond in a small town in Wisconsin. And one thing that he said to me is always finish what you start. And that just has stuck with me in some respects to a detriment, because if I start a book, I better make sure that I read the jacket and know that I'm going to like that book, because if I start it, I have to finish it. It will drive me crazy to not finish it. And my husband gets so angry at me. It's like, stop complaining about that book, just stop reading it, but I have to finish it. So, that's one thing. I think also my work ethic. I don't have kids. I have an extremely supportive husband. I used to be on a flight every week for probably over 20 years until the pandemic hit. And he never complained about me being gone. Probably liked it actually, but just 24/7 was business. And still to this day, if I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom, I look at my phone. And I've got clients East Coast, so summertime it's 6 o'clock there, and I'm getting emails at 3 a.m. my time, and I'm responding to them before I go back to bed. So it's just, I've worked super, super hard. There was one time when I mentioned the first recession, and I closed my first business. I worked 4 jobs. I worked for 2 design firms. I worked for a clothing boutique, and I worked for a video store. So nights and weekends, I was either at the clothing store or at the video store. And so just hard work, finishing what you start, and relationships. That's kind of it, I think, is what's led me to where I am, and a good staff. I could not have done it without support from the staff that I have and the staff that I've had over the years. Good designers.
We're not going to talk about work-life balance on that one.
No, don't. I'm a
no,
baby boomer. Baby boomers did not have work-life balance.
no, that'll be a discussion for another day. So I had to plug in my iPad. It decided to have the battery go down. So we're not going to discuss work-life balance, but
No.
Ladies, put your phone in a different room. Don't be looking at your phone 3, 4 in the morning, because the work will be there in the morning.
Yeah, it will.
So as we get ready to wrap up, what is your secret sauce? What is it that you bring to the table that probably, because everybody has a unique calling and everybody has their blue rose. What is your unique secret sauce?
Unique sauce. Well, I think in terms of our designs, and that's, I don't know my personal secret sauce. But I think in terms of our design, it's the passion that we put into it and the details that we put in, and with the constant thought behind that there is a person in that community that is living there. And I will say to designers all the time, if you're living in a community, you're eating in that restaurant or that dining space 3 times a day, do you really want to look at that piece of artwork? Do you really want to have your last meal, so to speak, and that's the piece of artwork that you're going to look at? And it sounds cliche or it sounds stupid, but it really, I think, makes every designer, including myself, think about the details and making certain that everything that we do is perfect for the purpose of the resident and for their life. So because we do change the lives of people by the environments that we create.
I never thought about, because again, when I tour communities, I'm not going to be there 24/7. So I never really thought of that long view of looking at that same picture over and over. And is that the picture I always want to look at? What a great way to look at it. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about, that you'd like to cover of your story?
No, I think, future, I'm
Yes, the future. I still think you're young, so your future,
Thank you.
you're not close to retirement yet.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not getting any younger. I think the future is probably the most difficult yet to come for me. Because I always have been 24/7, the business is my identity to a degree. And, I'm in the office every day, but I know that, the pandemic kind of woke everyone up for certain, different reasons. And, that's when I stopped traveling. I rarely travel for work now. But probably the biggest thing is that, I have talked about aging, since I started in the industry, and I've talked about ageism starting in the industry. And what I discovered when I let my hair go white was life-changing. Ageism is so real. It is incredible. And just changing your hair to white, even though I've worked in the industry for 28 years, you know, and I should know it, it's different when you're experiencing it yourself. So, you know, and I've taught and educated my designers on purpose for so many years. But when you look to the future, you know, for someone who might, and I'm not exiting the company by any means, but at some point, you know, I would like to do other things. Don't know what that is yet. But you know, determining your purpose at every phase of life really takes some soul searching, I think. And I think in terms of the purpose of the residence, and it's changing the way we're designing just because just because of my stupid white hair, in all honesty. Yeah, it's changed things. The ageism is so real that that I hadn't recognized to the extent that I do now.
And I think you hit upon a really good point. And I think, you know, some people would say, well, you know, when you get to be 50, 55, 60, 65, you start thinking this way. But I am finding women that are 40, 45 that are starting to look around and saying, okay, what am I going to do next? I think COVID has shifted everybody to think, am I happy doing what I'm doing? And if not, what do I want to do next? And I think the next thing that at least I see in my side hustle is how much women identify with their career.
Mhm.
And it's, you know, it's you're getting ready to retire. You're no longer going to be that person. Do you know who you are?
Mhm.
And, you know, and I find some, especially professional women who will come to me and they'll be like, I don't know who I am. I know who I am as the VP of the bank and the VP of this, you know, AL company or whatever, but I don't know who I am. So, you know, for all of you listening, you need to take the time to figure out who are you, because at some point, that's all you're going to have.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that that's not more forlorn than it meant to sound, but I mean, you always got to know what your North Star is or who you are,
Yeah.
because as you shift careers and you shift stages of your life, if you lose who you are, and sadly, so many women do, at some point you got to find it again.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very challenging for me just because I don't have children. So I don't have the grandkids. So that's not part of my identity either, or part of my purpose. So yeah, I think it's really important. You're absolutely correct to almost think that throughout your career, and make certain that you're constantly looking forward to how that purpose might change at some point.
And what happens, I was talking to somebody over the weekend and she was like, you know, I retired and the phone quit ringing. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, what do I do? The phone's not ringing, you know? And I mean, it's all the different things that we feel.
Yeah.
You know, all the different emotions that we're seeing more and more now. So for everybody paying it to listen to that, sit down and ask yourself, who am I? What do I want to do? And how do I get there?
Mhm.
I mean, because at some point you're going to retire.
Exactly.
So,
It's kind of comical because for anyone who really knows me, it was so unusual, but when I was grounded from the pandemic, of being able to travel, because again, I was on a plane easily, every week, sometimes 2 different cities in a week. And March 2020, I took my last trip, and I was grounded. I did not know what to do with my extra time. And granted, I had a ton of stuff to figure out for the business. I mean, I was so intent on keeping my employees safe and just trying to juggle liabilities of COVID for us, for the products and the supply chain issues. I mean, there was just a huge insurmountable amount of work that I had to do. But my home time was very different. So I ordered a kit to learn how to crochet. And, so speaking of growing older, I mean, I learned how to crochet, and I can't tell you how many blankets I've made, that I've given away, just because, it's fun to do. It was challenging. I do challenging patterns, but it just kept my mind occupied and kept my fingers going. So
I can tell you, I know somebody that has a very high 6-figure, soon to cross 7-figure crochet business. I am not lying to you. She makes high-end baby blankets and all this high-end stuff. And it's like, it's just crocheting. She's like, yeah, Karen, that's how you look at it. She goes, and she's got an Etsy shop. She's got everything going. So,
wow, there you go.
people
career,
will, I mean,
new
if you
purpose.
can think it, people will buy it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, is there anything you want to say to wrap up before we wrap up? I think I'm through all my questions.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Again, just want to say thank you. I love how you support women in the industry. It's appreciated, I know, across the board for everybody, and all the things that you do for Arizona Alpha.
Well, thank you very much, Luann. I appreciate every time I see you, you're the most, I can't think of the word, your equilibrium. You're just always the same, no matter what's going on. We're in the middle of a pandemic, you're smiling. When we're, booming, we're smiling. You've always inspired me with how you carry yourself, how you act, and how you protect your brand, the details. Sometimes we let details go. Even when I asked if I could use your background, you're like, yeah, but don't forget to put our logo on there. I mean, it's the details that represent who you are that I've always admired, that you stick, who you are, and you stick to that. And I admire that. Thank you so much for being on this. This will be posted to our YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Facebook, and on my podcast. It'll be on LinkedIn and Facebook probably by the end of the weekend. I always say I'll get it up by tomorrow, and we'll see. But by the end of the weekend, then you can download it. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you're interested in appearing on this show, let us know. We're always looking for great guests to have on the show for their women in leadership. Otherwise, thanks a lot. You guys have a great day. Stay safe out there. And thank you very much, Luann. I appreciate your time in doing this.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.